Welcome to Cockpits and Cocktails, the lively aviation podcast, where we talk about all things aviation and aerospace. So please grab a cocktail and let's chill out and talk about some aviation. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. It is Natalie Flygirl Kelly and
Stephanie.
We are going to talk about sun and fun and catch up a little bit on what's been going on these days for both of us. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Stephanie. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
So I did not go to sun and fun, as you know.
I know. You were supposed to, though. You were planning on it.
I was, yeah, but something else came up, and that's fine. That's life. But you did get to go. So, of course, I saw everybody there and saw what was going on and knew just based on past experience what it was like. But tell me some of the cool things that you saw or did there.
Yeah, so I've actually never been to Sun and Fun, and I kind of was expecting it to be like Oshkosh, and then many people would be like, oh, you can do Sun and Fun in a day, and I'm like, what? So I booked a house for the week with a bunch of other people, and that was a blast, just to know that, like, there was always someone to talk to. There was always someone there. Somebody was in the pool. Like, it was nice, rather than going back to your hotel room and just sitting there quietly until Netflix reminds you and asks you if you're still watching.
Yeah.
But that was fun. But I definitely had no idea that it was that, I thought it was a big air show. It still was a big air show, but it made me realize how massive Oshkosh is.
Yeah, true.
So unfortunately,
so it wasn't as big as you expected.
No. I thought there was just going to be, and the other thing, because I've never been there, I didn't realize that there's an Amazon facility on the airport.
Oh, yeah.
So there's Amazon Primes that you cannot disrupt the cargo. So I thought it was a crack up that, like, there would be like warbirds flying, and then all of a sudden there'd be an Amazon flying. And you're like, okay, how many of these are in this show?
Yeah. People have got to get their packages.
Exactly. So something funny that happened, like when we were back at the house, I had showed Ethan, who's P Dizzy. I think it's P Dizzy. He's one of the videographers that I use. I said, so it was me, Kelly, and I think Shayna. And I was like, yeah, they asked us to be in the air show this year, but we were like, we're on vacation. And it's like, they asked you to be in the show. And I said, yeah. And he's like, what did they want you to do? And so he likes to say that he's the butt of the joke, but he kind of is in this moment because I'm going to make it. But I think he wasn't gullible. I think he was like leading us on. And I said, yeah, did you see the Amazon Prime that taxied all the way down the runway really slowly? And I said, they wanted us to taxi it. They wanted me to taxi the 787 down the runway slow. And he's like, why didn't you do it? Like, well, for one, the winds had shifted, so they only taxied to the other end of the runway to turn around, and then they departed. So that would be one reason why I didn't taxi a 787.
Yeah.
But it was just funny because,
funny.
The more people you say that to, some people are like, did they really?
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, like, going to parachute out of
vacation. Yeah, we're on vacation. Like, guys, stop.
Busy. I'm relaxing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Talk about the FAA would be involved in that. Like, why did you let this woman taxi in the controls?
Yeah, that would be trouble.
But I just wanted my Amazon packages to get home safely.
That's right. So, I had some things I ordered that. Yeah.
Yeah. Some might say I was doing God's work.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, so I was unfortunately still recovering from surgery. Like, I was cleared to fly and everything. It was a lot of walking. So I didn't really do a whole lot at the show. I was inside the Sears tent, living up and sucking in their AC as
Hmm.
much as I could. And then I was down at E3, and the shows were great. I did not go to the night show on Wednesday night. I had come back early, and I just hung out by the pool alone and
Hmm.
watched Netflix.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was quiet. You could still see, we were by a lake, so you could still see
Oh,
certain
cool.
planes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I had, because of parking at Oshkosh before, I've gotten stuck. Like after the rain, my plane sunk down
Oh my
and I've gotten
gosh.
stuck.
Yeah.
So I paid for the FBO parking, ramp
Yeah.
parking. And I left Thursday night. I was going to leave Friday, but I left Thursday. As soon as the air show was done, I wanted to be wheels up the second I could before something happened, like an incident, and then they
Yeah.
would close again.
Yeah.
Um, so the FBO is apparently on the side that is like in the restricted spot during the air show. So
Okay. Like the
everyone on
box
the
or
other
whatever.
side, yeah, like everyone on the other side by the where, vendors and everything is, anyone who parked over there in general parking, they could start their plane up as long as they started up at 5:30 or when they allow it, you can start up. They were already lined up for the taxi.
Mm.
And the FBO wouldn't even let us out of the door.
Mm.
And then, so that sucked. But then I walked out to my plane, and the guy's like, I'm sorry, man, we had to move your plane. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, well, where'd you move it to? And he goes, oh, next to Fat Albert. And I'm like, huh,
Oh,
he parked it next to a Blue Angel. Okay, no
that's
problem.
cool.
Yeah. So that was like the coolest part of Sun and Fun for me, was to
Yeah.
know that like I got a photo next to my
That is
plane next
cool.
to it. So
That doesn't happen very often.
no, and
Definitely.
like at Oshkosh, I got stuck at I can't remember. I think it might be 28 or 27, the end of the runway that's by the Hilton.
Yeah.
There's like a they park all the military planes down there, and then
Yeah.
there's a grass spot. And both years, I believe, I've been parked down there, and they don't let you go by. Like you can't actually go by without like
Hmm.
basically permission. So I was
Hmm.
telling everyone that some people are so gullible. I was telling everyone at Oshkosh that my plane was protected by the government. So one time, one of the guys I was staying with, he got a phone call like 3 days after we landed that his interior light was on, and it was like 11:30. So we got on this like scooter, and we had to go by the helicopters and everything, and like I don't know if they're F-16s or whatever the cool jets are,
Yeah.
and no one was out standing around like guarding it. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we get down there, and there's minivans behind it, and these guys just get out with their gear.
Oh,
And by
wow.
that time, we had already zoomed by.
Yeah. Were
And I
they
was
after
like,
you?
they didn't know what we were doing. Like it's midnight. Why are you coming to these planes?
Yeah.
But we were really just
Wow.
trying to get through to where his plane
Get to
was and
the.
my plane was. So I wanted to check to see if they filled my
Hmm.
plane. So I said I'll go down with him. But it
Hmm.
was just kind of interesting that they really, really do protect them.
Wow. They were watching it 24/7, huh?
Hmm. But I could
Yeah.
have probably gotten Fat Albert. I'm just going to say that.
Well,
I
yeah.
didn't see anybody.
Oh, I wonder how many people actually travel with the whole Blue Angel team.
I know. I know. Well, when I got to see Fat Albert was that morning. I dropped off my bags and I was putting it in the plane. And that's when like nobody was really out there. They were probably like loading it. The cargo
Hmm.
door was down. And I was like, no shit, this is big. And
It is big.
but like we knew the air show was going to end the day because Fat Albert had finally taxied out. And I was like, oh good, that's the last one. Like we're good.
So did you leave on Thursday or no?
I left Thursday
Okay.
evening.
Okay.
But of
What time
course,
did you finally get out?
I'd say like 6:30ish maybe.
Okay. Okay.
They didn't have my plane fueled. I had asked for fuel that morning.
Mm.
It seemed like they said that fuel trucks weren't even allowed, but I had asked in the morning, so the air show didn't start then. So,
Mhm.
so then I decided I did have enough gas to get out of there. I just didn't
Mhm.
want to. You could already see there's massive holds around the lakes for
Mhm.
arrivals, and I just wanted to get out of there so that I could. So I had went to a different airport to fuel up, but I'm on the FBO side, so I'm just first in line, just waiting and waiting and waiting while all the other departures are lining up. And you hear someone say that there's a flat tire on the taxiway.
Oh
And I'm
no.
like, not my problem, because if it is, it's either
Oh.
behind me or it's on the other side. Like, I'm
Mhm.
first in line on this side. Let me out.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. I
And
can go.
so I got out, and by the time I was in the air and I had switched over to the tower that I was going to, there was another guy coming in behind me, and the tower asked him, "Do they know what happened?" And he was like, "No, I just know they have everyone holding." And so then I was like, "Oh, well, I had a flat tire on the taxiway, so that's probably why they kind of have
I couldn't let
the
people come
pause."
in because
I'm
it was
not
going to
sure.
be not moving or something. Yeah.
Right, right.
Hmm.
So I guess like other local airports probably do get bombarded
Yeah,
at certain times. So
I'm sure.
but that was like a cool experience. I think for me, Sun and Fun was more about like the people that I met, or again, I only went from one tent to the other tent. I didn't go anywhere because I
Hmm.
could bear, oh my gosh, I was so swollen. And I was coming out of one tent and someone would say, like, "Are you Stephanie?" And I, like, the one time I had like dirt stuck in my shoe, and I'm like cursing at my shoe, and she's like, "Are you Stephanie?" I was like, "God damn, son of a bitch." He's like, "Yeah, that's me. Yep, yep."
Yes,
So
nice
it's
to
just
meet you.
neat. Yeah. It was just like getting to know people and meet people that like follow me, or
Yeah,
sometimes I don't always follow people back because I don't know them, or there's
right.
so many fake accounts that like
Hmm.
I know that there's been accounts that like people take my photos, but like at least
Hmm.
with me, I'm actually a real person. So,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
sometimes I don't know if, they're a real person. So
yeah.
once I know that they are, then I follow them back.
Well, here's my Sun and Fun experience. I was
Okay.
actually flying that week of Sun and Fun. I had a flight down to Florida, and I could hear the Lakeland traffic and stuff
You
talking
could?
to air traffic control. They were trying to get them in and out
Yeah.
and stuff. So it was kind of cool. It was like, oh, I should be there.
Yeah. Well, so I flew down Sunday, and man, we had some weather, and I beat the weather down. Well, we had basically we're instrument all the way there.
Hmm.
I'd say like 2 hours was actually IMC, but we had
Hmm.
filed. And so, like when you're flying into an air show, you have to cancel before you get
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
Well, it actually started Monday. And so since it was Sunday, we had we had gotten
Mm.
in, and they just let us go completely. And I was like, oh man, this guy's never flown into an air show. Like, it's gonna be insane. We were the only plane coming in,
Oh,
the only plane.
see how crazy this is?
Exactly. And so, but I
Told
don't
you.
remember I don't remember which ATC I was with, but the coolest part, I know I said Fat Albert, but the coolest part was I had this British controller, and he was like, "Good day." No, he didn't say good day. That would be not British. He said
Australia.
cheerio. He said cheerio
Yeah.
as he left. And I was like, "Oh my God, I love you." That was the
Yeah.
coolest part. But dude,
That's
I would
cool.
love to have an Australian controller too.
I know.
Sometimes you can hear them like on frequency, but like you're like, can you say something else?
Yeah. Well, Miami Center. Well, there's a little,
It
let's
might have
see.
been Miami. No, it wouldn't have been Miami
No.
on that side.
Okay. So are you doing, you were talking about being on an IFR flight plan. Did you have someone with you? Or are you doing
Mhm.
lessons while you do these
No,
flights?
so
Okay.
I was going to fly down with someone who canceled on me the morning of.
Mm.
And I had Ed, who's flying the Northeast. He had gotten down from New Hampshire. He was trying to beat this mess of a storm. He spent the night at my house in my guest room. I'm just going to throw that out there with my family.
Yeah.
um, he had spent the night, and he was going to JYO to pick Leesburg to pick someone up. And
Hmm.
I was going there to pick up this other person. and he was picking up two people. And when I got there, that was a mess in itself. But I was like upset, and I don't really, I'm gonna have to try to get down the coast VFR with a storm, making sure that
Mm-hmm.
I'm planning right. Here, the one guy he was picking up was used to be a Cirrus instructor and flies Vision Jets now. So
Oh, wow.
it was like a perfect, yeah. So I
Nice.
wouldn't say I did any instrument like lessons. We just
Yeah.
talked and joked the whole
Okay.
time.
Okay.
But mhm.
Well, how is your instrument training? Are you
I like to tell people I'm working on my instrument training, but I have not been working on it.
okay? All right. Well, that's cool. It's hard sometimes to
It
life
seems
with,
like, where do I start? Like, but I like things. I like to know what's about to happen. I like to make
hmm
sure, ahead of time that I never want to be surprised. And I feel like, well, that's what instrument is. You'll never be surprised. Like, you know where
Yeah.
you're going, you know what you're doing. So like, I think yeah,
Yeah.
you
Well,
just
it
have to
takes,
want it. I just don't
that's
feel
true.
like,
Well, you did just finish training
right,
too and
like
got
last,
your,
yeah.
yeah. So maybe you just want a break, and it just takes a
Mhm.
little while to get revved back up to want to
Yeah.
go through that training again.
Yeah, but my new plane's coming. So like I definitely feel like, I paid all this money to have the icing features on that
Yeah.
plane.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to help me if I'm not instrumented, because you shouldn't be in any instrument conditions that you
Right.
need icing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I
It doesn't mean
definitely
you'll
need
just because
to.
you're not doing it right now doesn't mean you're never going to do it. I mean,
Yep.
that's probably,
Yeah.
and just in case you did get into icing, and then,
Hmm.
you're still, it's a safety thing as well.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like to claim I'm doing it, but I'm not really.
Well, so the other thing you mentioned, and I think we may have brushed on this before, was the lodging situation. So you rented a place
Hmm.
there. It can be really hard to get a decent place. I know a couple of times I've gotten a hotel, a couple of times I've stayed in a house. And the hotel, I remember one time the hotel was, I think it was a Super 8. It had red like shag carpet, and I was
Oh
paying
my
like
God.
$300 a night for it, and it had
Yeah.
no Wi-Fi. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's such a pain in the butt. Was it Airbnb that you did?
No, is it Verbo,
Yeah,
VRBO?
yeah.
I don't know if that's how
Was
people
it easy
pronounce
to
it.
find a spot?
No, we had booked a while ago.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, I just found out today that someone took the listing from us for Sun and Fun of next year. So
Oh
someone already booked it.
no.
So anyone listening, it was probably someone who showed up at my house and stole it from us.
Yeah, and she's mad.
Exactly. The mafia is mad. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I had already on my Marriott app, which is prepaid, I had already booked a week at a Marriott. I think it was, I don't know, it was like a suite, one of those hotels they're all
Yeah,
suites.
yeah, right.
So there was at least, a couch, and like it would have been big enough that it wouldn't have felt like I was just crammed in a room. That, since I had already prepaid, I had to keep that. That was like 550 a night, I'd say.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
Wow. Well, how
for
far
the
was it
price of this,
from the airfield?
well, I was told that it was like you could see the air show from that hotel. Well, it wasn't that hotel apparently. So I'm
Oh,
glad I didn't do it because it was like a 15-minute drive. But the house we rented was a 6 or 7 bedroom house. I think there's a seventh bedroom, but it's marked private. But it was 6 bedrooms for us, and then we had some air beds. One was in the dining room, and then we had a huge living room. We had a big pool. We had like, I mean, it really worked out. We had a
yeah,
good group that we've already known each other. Most of like, there were three new people that we didn't really know personally. We'd known
yeah,
from Instagram,
yeah,
but it was funny because I believe Cooper, they called her condo the TikTok place, and ours
yeah.
was the Instagram place. So I don't know who all she had, but
Yeah.
we had Bananas, Fly the Northeast, P. Dizzy, Fly Kel, or Kel Flies, I can't remember how she is. Kyle Newsom, Shayna, should go through the room. Joe, uh, just plain Amber, Justin Spence, I think was his Instagram, and Brian and Abel. So we had like 10 of us, and then there were a few random nights that like extra people showed up. So, but it all worked out because
Yeah.
for us, like you're not forced to hang out with us. I was back at the house by myself a lot. Like
Yeah.
Wednesday night, Joe came back to the house. Like he didn't go to the night show. So we both were in our bedrooms
Mhm.
before everybody came back.
Yeah.
You know, probably because we're old, but also it gets exhausting. By Wednesday, you're in that heat. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, it's exhausting. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have a break where it's quiet and you do your own thing. I saw Joe the first day when we got there,
Mhm.
but like it faded out. I'd see him at night. I'd see him in the morning when he's making his god awful, super strong coffee that wakes the entire house up.
Yeah.
So
So renting a house was you were happy with how that turned out.
absolutely, yeah. There
Yeah.
was not an issue. Kyle was shooting. He shot with Mike Goulion. He shot with Rob Holland. I mean, Kyle was working basically doing the air show, photography. So some nights he'd come home at 11:30 and you wouldn't see him. And then you'd see him in the morning. Like there, it just was all you're doing
Mhm.
your own thing. You know the
Mhm.
code to get in, to lock it if you're the last one out.
Mhm.
Like, but
How far were you from the field?
I'd say 15 minutes.
Okay.
But it said it was 5 miles, but
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
traffic, so we all had rental cars, not everyone, but like there was a good amount. So one time I Ubered back by myself because I wanted
Mhm.
to go back, but
Mhm.
there was always somebody that you just plan to go in with at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I saw the
Um,
funniest you said that. I think it was on TikTok actually. It was funny. It was like when you're in your 20s, you're game to go like anywhere. Yeah, let's go. Let's all pile in. And then when you get to like your 30s, you're kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna drive separately.
yes, exactly.
I'll meet you there.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But it's just funny because like we would crack up with Joe because I'd be like, you sound like my pappy with dementia, because he'd be like, you guys are too loud. But it really did work out because we were a good group that we had already known each other. It wasn't like I went to bed early. There was one night that people were showing up at 10:30 at night, like coming, like somebody messaged me and was like, hey, I'm on my way. She's probably listening right now. She's like, hey, I'm stopping by. Kyle invited me for a nightcap. And I was like, oh, dear God, I just took Kyle out PM. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
can't sleep. Like, I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
So I actually took Kyle out PM that night, so nervous that people were going to be too loud and I wouldn't sleep. So I was like, oh, gosh, how
You
do
just
I
want a night of
respectfully
sleep.
sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it was the best. I had slept every single night that week.
Well, you were exhausted, I'm sure,
I know.
Yeah.
But it really worked out. But I don't think that I could just randomly let somebody stay with me that someone didn't know. Like
Hmm.
everybody vouched for someone else. Like someone personally knew someone
Yeah.
the whole time. So like, and then the majority of us who had all the bedrooms, that was our group originally. So
Hmm.
we've already done this.
Yeah.
So
You're established. You've got your
mhm,
spot, and everybody else
right.
can use the air mattresses or whatever.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
stay out of my room.
And it really did work out. And the pool was a really good treat after the air show.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I
We
bet.
had it heated. It wasn't that great in the sun daytime that it was heated,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
was really nice because we all just hung outside. So
Especially on a hot day, you can cool off in the
mhm.
pool. Have you got something picked out for next year already? Are you going to do it next year? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're definitely going to do it. And then I found out that the house was already rented, and I'm thinking like, well, we could just show up and kick everyone out. Be
That's
like,
true.
we
If
own
you
this
have
house.
enough of you, then this is
We'll
our
make a
place.
new
We found it
exactly.
first.
Exactly. Um, well, another thing was they had, I guess, showed it like their house on two different apps, and I had gotten a text from the woman, I'd say like in January, which, you have to book a long time in advance. Clearly, this is a year in advance and somebody
Yeah.
already took the house. She was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know we had a double booking accidentally, but you guys booked first." And I was like, I don't. And she's like, "It's another pilot." And I said, I don't care. They're not like, no.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Well, I didn't know if maybe you would." No, we're not letting
No.
people that we don't know. Like,
Yeah.
no. What if, no, I'm not even going to list the name. I was going to say, what if it was
Yeah.
a
Don't
YouTuber?
say
Like,
it.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there. But what if it was like this dude who everybody hates and he showed up and was like, "Hey, guys."
Are you glad you went and experienced it, even though you
I
weren't
am.
feeling 100%?
Yeah, I am. I had more
Mm-hmm.
fun just being at my, on vacation at the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The air show was just way too much for me because it
It is a
wasn't
lot.
like
It's
you
a lot
can't
of
just
work
kick
just
back.
to
You're
get to the
carrying a
from the
backpack, right?
yeah, and just to get from the parking lot to the actual
Well, and we had the
area
good
is a
parking. We had
trek.
media parking. Like we had the good
Mm-hmm.
parking. It still was exhausting.
Was it really
No,
hot?
yeah, it was definitely high 90s.
No.
Yes.
Really? Oh
Hmm.
my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, my body had no idea either
Yeah.
because I did not pack accordingly. Like I didn't need to bring a sweatshirt. I didn't need to bring it was freezing when I left. So I did need, it was freezing and then we get back and we're like so I mean it
Well,
was nice
yeah,
for
that's the problem. From like for me as well, from Ohio down to Florida, and I fly to Florida quite a
Mhm.
bit, then dressing for
Mhm.
that is like, okay, lots of layers I can take off and
And you could
yeah,
feel it in the air. Like you're like,
yeah,
oh, it's getting warmer. It's like it's funny that you're like, can you turn the air conditioning off?
yeah, yeah. Especially when you start descending, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's getting warm. I'm getting
Uh-huh.
hot. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
I mean,
funny.
I shouldn't complain. There's probably people listening that are like, are you really complaining that you went from 40-degree weather to 95? I am complaining because I wanted nice March weather in Florida. I always thought March was like that. It could be like high 70s, like
That'd
give
be
me an
nice.
80. Yeah, it was hot. Anyway.
Well, okay, well, it was fun. Well, I feel like I've experienced it through you all over again. I was there in spirit.
Yeah. And as always, it's another podcast that I talked my entire time.
Well, you're the one
Fine.
that was there, so that's what you needed
Yeah.
to do. I
No
don't
one
have
needed to
anything to
know that
add
you weren't
about it.
there. You could have just made it up and said the exact same thing from last year. Or you
That's
could have just
true.
been like, it was so great. I saw the Blue Angels. I saw
Was the Raptor there? Do you
that
know the
might have been
Raptor?
the day that I had left. I don't
Okay.
know. There were some that I'd seen videos of, and I don't know my planes, let alone I wouldn't even know what planes the Blue Angels fly. I know if it's a Cirrus,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
I know,
That's I
like,
mean, that's how, I started out like that too. And it's
yeah,
like the more you get exposed to things, you're able to kind of pick
yeah.
things out. I still am
I
not
don't really
great at
feel like,
identifying stuff.
yeah. I'd be like, look, that's a jet. All I
Yeah.
know is as long as I'm not flying and see one, I'm good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my husband, I could show him and he'll be like, "Oh, that's a blah blah blah. That's a tomcat. That's a," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Cool. You don't even fly. Very cool that you know all this."
I know. I don't know how people do it. My son is the same way. My older son. I mean, he's like, that's an F-16.
Hmm.
Well, you can tell by the way the back. I'm
I know.
like, oh, yeah, that looks very similar to me.
Yeah. Or people that'll be like, "That's a Boeing and that's Airbus." Really? It just flies me where I need to go.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't know.
True. They're like, what are you flying? When you go over to
People ask
California or
me.
something, like, I don't know what
Yes,
it is. It's
they
a
ask
passenger
me.
plane.
They're like, "What did you go on?" And I'll be like, if I flew like Germany, I'd say Lufthansa. And they'd be like, "Oh, was it this?" And I was like, it had a seat that went down and I slept and then I woke up and then I got off. That's the plane I was on.
Yeah, it has some big engines, and
they didn't let me in the cockpit, so we're good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap up. And this was fun. I love talking about sun and fun as always, and chatting with you. I hope you get to go next time, and I'll get to see you next time. That would be great.
Yes, it will be fun. It will be fun. I mean, I definitely want to go for the week next year again, just because if we have a house, it's nice and it's private and it's.
Yeah, and you can kind of like take your time. You don't have to go and spend all day. You kind of spend half a day, and you feel like I've seen enough, and then go back and not like kill yourself trying to do everything. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. Please share this episode. Let us know what you thought, and if you have any suggestions for future shows, let us know. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheerio.